Thank you, everybody, and I'll try and keep this short and sweet. I'm sure you're all dying to hit the road after a busy day. As you've read in your introductions, I'm a stuntman for my sins, and I'm here this afternoon to talk about and discuss with you, hopefully, coping with fear in its various forms. And just to be more specific, I'm not talking about the fear you get when a wild dog runs over the street, foaming at the mouth, snapping at your heels. That's a natural fight or flight response. I'm talking more about the fear that holds us back, you know, the fear of rejection, the fear of doing that merger or the latest acquisition, going into a territory that is new to you, that uncomfortable feeling in the pit of your stomach that makes us all hesitate and wonder what on earth we're doing. And why don't we just stay in that nice, calm place we're already in? Why do we always have to push ourselves to go bigger and better? So that's what I'd like to discuss today. Now you may think, and you'd be forgiven for thinking so, that, you know, what makes this guy special in terms of, you know, being a stunt performer? Because it would be easy to consider and think that I'm a daredevil, because surely all stuntmen are daredevils, you know. And what do we know about fear if we're just a no brain, set ourselves on fire, and that part of our brain is damaged, and we don't feel fear, and we leap off buildings and that kind of thing. But far from that. I was inspired as a child, aged 11, by a show called The Fall Guy. Does anybody, show of hands, remember The Fall Guy? Show our ages here? Yeah, great. I'm not alone then, okay. Well, that was my big inspiration. You know, I used to see this of a Friday, Saturday. This is 1981. And the problem there, of course, was I was an 11-year-old schoolboy, excuse me. I was an 11-year-old schoolboy at the time, very skinny, very totally unathletic. And I wrote away to the British Actors Equity Association, aged 11. I've still got the letter they sent back, which basically said, you've got to become a professional actor. I was very, very shy. You've got to become a black belt in 2 martial arts, and I couldn't fight my way out of a paper bag. I used to get travel sick, getting on the bus, going into town. So how was I going to throw these cars away? And so on and so forth. And like a shy individual, very low-income household, and the training was going to cost about 30 grand, and this was over 20 years ago. But I intuitively locked into something which began with, first of all, as simple as it sounds, making that decision. So I've analysed this many, many times since, and I made the decision that, in spite of all of this, I would become a stuntman. I'd try to forget this dream. A lot of people around me said, don't be so silly. School friends would take the mick out of me. My family said, you know, grow up, you're going to have to concentrate at school and get a real job. But it never went away, because every day I couldn't get it out of my mind that I wanted to be a stuntman into adulthood. So at the age of 18, I started training. It took 7 years of a very, very difficult journey, but I did achieve that. And here's some of the things I've been up to of late. So that's a few of the things I've done over the last few years as a stuntman. I know you still think I'm nuts, but just bear with me with this, okay? Because I'm not. I'm the most average guy you'll ever meet. I still get very frightened before I approach a new film, a new project. And in the various different things I've done since becoming a stuntman, I still have a healthy respect for heights and all sorts of different danger. But also, I still get very nervous breaking into new areas of business. I run numerous six-figure businesses. Each time I launch one, I still get that nerves. But the technique I'm about to share with you helps with that. And it starts, and I mentioned it briefly there, making that decision, and also I surrounded myself with visualization. Is anybody familiar with the law of attraction? Show of hands. That's very interesting. Okay, worth googling that one there. Basically it's about a process that starts with visualization, where you train a part of your brain, the reticular activation system in the brain, to spot various circumstances that will help you take action. And it's a key part of getting away with your fear. So, not being content with becoming a stuntman, as I was training, I started doing a lot of skydiving. And just the way I'm wired, I couldn't help wondering what it would be like, who's done the longest parachute jump. You train and you do flights of a couple of minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then they say, that's your lot, we can't go any higher. And I wanted to go higher and further than anybody else. So I surrounded myself with posters and visual references, immersed myself in documentaries and videos about this particular world record, which was the longest delayed parachute drop. The record was 40 minutes, and so I set about trying to break that as best I can. Early days, still working as a stuntman in Hollywood, working all over the world. As I mentioned, I still do that. That's me last week with Steve Tompkins. I've just finished doing DCI Banks up in Leeds. But using this formula that I'm sharing with you this afternoon, I focus next on some world records. Same age 11, that's when I started getting the Guinness Book of Records. I've bought it every year since. I'm in the current Guinness Book of Records 2016. In order to do that, I had to face, it sounds simple enough, doing a long duration parachute jump, but doing it from 32,000 feet, the temperature was minus 40. This was an obstacle I had to overcome. There's no air, obviously, at that altitude. I had to train with the SAS for many months in hyperbaric chambers, doing high altitude parachute jumps in order to achieve this. Bear in mind, I'm still the kid who gets travel sick and air sick, and still have a healthy fear of heights doing this. This was the result after 11 years of training. There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, a million miles away from procurement, but there's a common thread here in that there's a certain way that I tackle the fears that hold all of us back, and myself included, as I take on any new challenge. And it starts with making that decision, laser targeted, absolutely getting clear on exactly where I want to go. And then a process of visualization begins. Before I jumped from that balloon, I jumped out of that balloon 1,000 times in minute detail. I knew exactly what temperature it would be. I knew how much oxygen mix I needed in the pre-breathe. I knew exactly what altitude I'd cut away and pull the parachute. And I'd done it again and again and again, mental rehearsal. And it's something I use daily at work as a stuntman. It's not exactly what you think. It's not Daredevil. If we're doing a fire burn, we'll spend days rehearsing, walking the course before all the prop guys arrive. I'll know exactly where I'm going to be set on fire, what position I get to. I'll have soaked the clothes for a number of days in special fireproof clothing. There's a dressing process that takes 20 minutes before the take. And, you know, we rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, but the key part of this is the mental rehearsal. And this is all about, we think in pictures, basically. And once this is an old adage of, knowledge dispels fear from my original parachute club. And this is absolutely key also. This method I'm describing, once you're familiar with it, this knowledge completely knocks it out of the water, the fear element, because once you've mentally rehearsed again and again and again, you enter into a completely different arena. And I'm just going to very quickly explain the psychology behind this. Thinking in pictures, if I ask you guys to think of the mind, for instance, you say, what sort of image comes to mind if you ask you to think about an image of the mind? Brain, yeah. Okay, most people say that. To get to the nitty-gritty, the mind isn't the brain. The brain's, if you look at mind, body and spirit, most people think of an image of the brain. I'm talking about the mind in the bigger picture. The physical body, the physical flesh and blood of the brain itself is a completely different thing to the psychology of the mind. And because there isn't a good image that we can use to think of the mind, there's Dr. Thurman Fleet, an eminent psychiatrist in the 1930s in Texas, came up with a diagram. He was the first doctor to realize, while people were treating a skin rash with cream, he realized that if the rash was caused by anxiety, then you could treat the mind and the rash would never appear, would never ever need any cream. So he began human psychology, and he came up with this diagram. So if you imagine that's the head, we draw a line from ear to ear. The top part of this represents the conscious mind, and the lower part represents the subconscious mind. Now, this is just a diagram, it's not to scale, it's actually in real life like an iceberg. Your actual conscious mind is just a tiny bit poking above the water. The subconscious mind is infinitely more powerful. And for this diagram, that represents the body. And thoughts we hold in the conscious mind have to drift down into the subconscious and then take action in the body by our actions, and that's how we get our results. So I'm going to try and explain this to you using this diagram today. Obviously, it's your subconscious. So if you think of learning to drive, you're very, very conscious at first. Oh my God, I've got to put this foot on this pedal and do what? Put the clutch in and do this gear, and it's grinding. And then you cut to a few years after doing your driving lesson, and you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, and you don't even know you get home a lot of the time, right? Until you pass a truck that's spraying with water, and suddenly your eyes are on the road, and you're very, very conscious again if you're driving, and then you relax and you think about different things. And some people in the room will be texting. I don't, obviously, when I'm driving. Some people do. So, I've used coins and money to illustrate the point here, but it's not just about finance that I'm talking about. This relates to business, it relates to relationships, health, but let's just say we've got a lower vibrational thought going on in our conscious mind. Some people are brought up like I was, with being told by their parents money doesn't grow on trees, and what do you think I'm made of money, and all of these things. And when you listen to that long enough, it starts to seep down into the subconscious mind, and once it's in there, then your actions and the way you live, the results are that kind of limited mindset, okay? And likewise, somebody who's got some pretty healthy ideas in business, in their private life, they've held that thought for long enough for that to drift down into the subconscious. And so their results are very affluent. So most successful people have either gradually built up through trial and error, a good money mindset, and that's why they live in that life. So what happens when you're running a lower mindset and you entertain a new thought, okay? So you try and put this new big idea in there. Now this doesn't gel. The jelly represents what I call the wobble effect, okay? Because there's a lack of synchronicity there between this new thought, which is a higher vibrational thought, and it causes literal dis-ease in the subconscious, and it can make you physically ill with worry. It can cause a tightening in the chest, a sickness in the pit of your stomach. This might represent the new job interview, setting up the new company. It's something different. And our subconscious is saying, no, whoa, wait a minute, we're not programmed to do that. Are you serious? But with the laser targeted precision planning and the decision to do that, and surrounding yourself in imagery and imagining in your conscious mind as if it's already happening, seeing yourself living that lifestyle, doing that deal. If you can do that, it's actually about 28 to 30 days constantly, you gradually force that particular new thought down into the subconscious, and that then now becomes your new paradigm. You're now operating until the next big thought comes along, and you begin the process all over again. And that's how we grow, and that's how people are held back in life, by just settling and thinking, I'm quite happy how I am, because this wobble zone is a terrifying place that I encounter. Often I force myself through it. And the good thing now, I've got to identify when this is happening. It always happens, this terrible feeling, just before a big success. I felt it when I was training for the world record attempts. I felt it when I became a second unit director recently. It was a completely new area. I direct films now. I've set companies up and felt that same wobble. Who am I to set this little niche business up? And so on and so forth. I wrote a book, and I thought, who's going to take notice of me? I'm not an author. How am I going to possibly have the time? And all the little doubts crept in. The easiest thing in the world was to say, I won't do that, I'll do it some other time, and procrastinate. But recognizing this wobble zone, I was able to understand that now, if I'm going to be an author, I need to keep thinking thoughts of that author. Imagine the book selling, imagine doing book signings, and force that down into the subconscious so that suddenly I'm operating on that frequency. And I did just that, and I naturally started getting up an hour early, an hour and a half early. Even if I was up at 5 a.m. to go on a shoot, I'd get up at 4 a.m. I'd always spend every day for a year an hour writing the book, and the book was written. And that wobble zone is this kind of fear. That's the psychology behind the fear that we feel and the hesitation. And if we go back onto the brain aspect of it now, so moving away from the mind, that kind of intangible part. If you think of your brain, you've got this part of your brain in the hippocampus, the reticular activation system. And have you ever bought a new car and suddenly you start to see them all over the place? Have you had that? How weird is that, right? It's not that suddenly that car has just suddenly become popular because you bought one. It's because this reticular activation system, the RAS in the brain, is now programmed because you've been looking for that car, test driving, maybe you've read the brochure. So by the time you're in that car, your brain, the filter, is trained to spot that. And that's the reason why sometimes there's a motorcycle accident, the driver knocks somebody off a bike at a junction and says, honestly, officer, I didn't see him. And they think, well, you just weren't paying attention. But that particular part of the brain wasn't looking for a motorcycle. It probably had so much input going on, but the person didn't actually see that motorbike. It wasn't there for that brief second. They jumped to it, really genuinely didn't see it. And that's that part of the brain. That's the part of the brain that when we focus on a goal and we set our visionary up, I literally surround myself with physical printouts of pictures, I have screensavers, whatever the task is. So even if I'm working away subconsciously, that is taking up all of this imagery and this thought and processing all of the time what my next goal is. It soaks it up and it forces it down beyond that line into the subconscious to make it real. And the illustration here, there was an experiment just before the Apollo missions NASA did, where they put inverted goggles on all of their future astronauts, okay? And it was, they had little prisms in to literally turn the world upside down. It must have been horrendous, you know? You go to shake hands with the left, it goes right, up's down, down's up. And it was about disorientation and whether that would make them physically sick. But a byproduct of this test was something that nobody ever expected. On day 28, one of the astronauts woke up and jumped a mile because his vision was right, and he thought his goggles had came off, but he felt and the goggles were still on. And what had actually happened is that part of the brain had flipped the image the right way up and literally rewired the neurons in his brain. So they were surprised by this, and like one by one between day 28 and day 31, all of the other astronauts on the experiment that had kept their goggles on reported the same thing. The neural network took 28 to 30 days to physically rewire in the brain, all around this central cortex. So they repeated the experiment, thought this is interesting, and they did a split test, and they got half the guys to take their goggles off at day 20, and those who took it off, it took another 28 to 30 days before their brain rewired. So we know, in terms of visualization and actual hardwiring of the brain to a new thought and habit, it takes at least 28 days. And if you just stop and forget about that for that weekend, then you're back to square one. So it is, whatever that goal is, needs to be something from the heart that you really, really want to do, that you can obsess about and think nothing else of for at least a month, and in my case, years of just going again and again and again and never ever thinking about that, think of it daily. And I can absolutely guarantee if you follow that, then the world's your oyster. You can overcome any fear and turn any of your dreams to reality, as I've done and continue to do. And I teach this stuff all over the place, and the people who use these tactics and are aware of this go on to achieve their dreams, essentially. They're not held back. So that's the 30 days. So hopefully this little bit of knowledge, short and sweet at the end of a busy day, just give you something to thought about. Knowledge does dispel fear. And I hope that you recognize the next time you get a wobble. Just hopefully some of you in the room will just consider for a minute, that guy who sets himself on fire said something about this, I wonder, And I'd urge you to go off and read. But more importantly, I'd like you all to bear in mind that if you just take away this information today and do absolutely nothing, then nothing obviously is going to change. You've got to change that pattern in the conscious, push it down to the subconscious. And biggest of all, you've got to take action, as you know. Every conference you go to, it's all about taking action, but clearly you absolutely have to take action to do that. And as I said in the brochure when I came in this morning, you've got to connect the thinking with the doing and use these tactics. Do you want to just try it? You've got nothing to lose. If there's some big goal that you think, it's probably too big for me, surround yourself with some imagery. Try and do this for 30 days and you watch what happens. Okay. So further reading, the book I wrote was called 7 Paths to Freedom. And there's some contact details. If anybody needs to get in touch with me at all or would like to touch base beyond this, then you're welcome to get in touch. And with that in mind, I think we've got a couple of minutes for some questions if anybody's got any. It doesn't have to be about psychology. It can be what's the most dangerous stunt you've done. Do you get to meet actors and all of those usual ones? So welcome any questions. Don't be shy. Yes, sir.
What's your next world record going to be?
Next world record, there's a few. The one reference in there was the longest abseil. It was a 4,000 feet abseil from our hot air balloon, which is getting on for almost a mile above New Mexico. We've got a TV show coming up that I'm exec producing. Fingers crossed, all being well, in January next year. And part of that, there'll be a live world record attempt, which is the highest bungee jump on fire into water on a Saturday evening. So we're working on that as well. As you do.
Remember the bungee jump off hot air balloon?
Yes.
The high one? What happened after that? You just dangling in the air?
So no. No, it's a good question, isn't it? I could have been dangling there for days.
You just sailed down for a couple of hours.
No, I had a cutaway.
Push it to your head.
The blood did. I literally had about 2 minutes before I had to cut away because I didn't carry oxygen because I was too heavy. With the the oxygen system would have been too heavy. That's why I was pre-breathing in the balloon basket and then holding my breath and jumping out. And I was counting, and I had 2 minutes before I cut away. Went head down, 180 miles an hour down to where the air is richer near the surface, and then pulled my parachute. That's why I had a parachute. You see, yeah.
I thought you were going to say you brought the balloon down to the point where you were and then you climbed.
That's the next one, yeah.
How long can you actually hold your breath for then?
It depends. In still water, I could do 2 minutes 15, something like that. I do meditation, so if I sort of hyperventilate. But really, if you're doing like a fire burn and you're holding your breath, it's about 30 seconds if you're moving and expending energy.
Have you ever suffered a... Go on. Sorry.
What is the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
It varies, actually. It's not usually... The big stunts have so much preparation in that sometimes it's so fire burns are always dangerous. I've been in a situation where I'd set up basically it was a bonfire that I was going to be pushed onto at the end of a movie, and so we'd rigged it all. It's not real, it's fire, but not really lit bonfire. It's gas fed, so they can control, the special effects guys control where the flames are. So I created a little pocket hidden in the bonfire, so once I was on fire, if I got into trouble, I could go in and take a breath in there. And without me knowing, once I was on fire, the director had shouted, more flames, more flames! And the guy, oh, okay, and turned it up. So once I started to catch, I could feel my head getting hot and the gel was starting to run out. That keeps you cool. I went in to get away from it and put my face straight into this very hot flame, you know. So I had to get out sharpish on that one. That was, if I'd have panicked on that, then, you know, I would have had it. But again, it's down to this mental rehearsal. I've been in there the afternoon before any special effects got there and rehearsed it all. Right down, so okay, so you're setting fire to me here, I'm going to do this, we'll time it on a watch, and we go through it so meticulously that we've said, what if we can't get our breath right, I'll go out that way, or what if this bit collapses, right, well, I'll go this way, and you switch. So we had a backup plan, so it was okay.
Is there anything you fear that you've not got around to confronting?
No, it's an ongoing, there's lots of different things, so I could be booked, you know, somebody could ask me next week, can I do an 80-foot high fall? And I haven't done one of those for maybe 6 or 7 years. So I'd go on a recce and we'd have a little look at that. And I'd get up there, my heart would be racing. I'd be thinking, I'm getting too old for this. You know, I'm 46 years old, I do second unit directing and mainly stunt coordinating there. But yeah, healthy fear. I did a car turnover at 50 miles an hour a couple of weeks ago for the end of DCI Banks. And I suddenly found myself in the seat waiting to go, thinking, why am I doing this? I should be by the monitor with a cup of coffee with some 20-year-old stunt guy sat in there. And I thought, well, you know, you've got to kind of prove you still got it sort of thing. And it all went great. But no, I get nervous all of the time. That's a short-term fear that I can deal with, like I say, by mental rehearsal and breathing techniques. And the bigger fears, you know, again, setting up this, it's a small fry to you guys, but it's a £2 million business I've just set up. To do with a TV show next year, and suddenly it's like that's a lot of money to be putting in, and what if there's bombs, what if this happens, and you suddenly get nervous, and then that's dealing with it, and the visualization, and surrounding myself with positive imagery about that very thing, so that the fear just goes away, and you recognize it for what it is and move on.
What's your favourite stunt performed by somebody else that you haven't done?
Well, they just keep getting better, because the technology is improving. So many years ago when I got into it, people would say, there won't be a job for a stuntman in 5 years with modern technology. But I've kind of embraced it, so we can put much bigger safety wires on now and bungee cords, and we can take them out in post-production. So because of that, the stunts are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Still my favourite was one I saw as a child, which was a stuntman called Dar Robinson. In the infancy of parachuting, he rode a car at 80 miles an hour into the Grand Canyon. And his stomach drops thinking about it, but just as it started to fall, he popped out and pulled his parachute, and the car tumbled down into the canyon. And there was something a bit special about that as a kid, you know, wide-eyed watching that happen. So that's still up there for me as one of my favourites.
Has anything ever gone wrong? Have you injured yourself badly?
I'll look for some wood to touch now, haven't I? No, I've never broken a bone, touch wood, in my career. I've had some bumps and bruises, and there's things like the fire, there you go to get away, and the fire's in the wrong place. I did a Bond movie called Tomorrow Never Dies. James Bond is planting mines on a stealth ship, and I play one of the dippy guards who plods out onto the deck, and Bond stabs me in the chest, and he dresses me up as James Bond, throws me in the water, and Stamper, the bad guy, radios. He sees me drifting, we've killed Bond, but it was me. And that was filmed at Pinewood Studios in the paddock tank there. And they made quite a lot of changes. This was early in my career when I didn't dare ask and check things and just took everything as gospel that my boss at the time had told me. But once I actually got underwater and he'd thrown me in, they were operating loads of outboard motors to ruffle the water so it looked like it was travelling through the sea. And basically I got hung up. I had a backpack on and I got trapped under a speedboat, and it was pitch black. This is at night. So I'm like waiting for somebody to come in, a safety diver, and they couldn't see me because of all the water agitation. So I got to that minute and a half, 2 minutes, and suddenly had to, don't panic. And you sort of felt my way around and pulled myself free, and then just about got out in time, you know. So I've had a few close calls like that. Yeah.
You said you had a backup plan for food. Do you always have a backup plan for everything? Or is there sometimes you can't have a backup?
I wouldn't do it if there was no backup plan. So again, it's an odd thing, perhaps, but I'm really not a daredevil. The daredevils don't last long in the game. You know, you get probably 1 in 200 people would come in with a bit of a daredevil attitude. They either change that rapidly, or they get injured and they're out of the game in a year. You know, so I'm all for calculating trajectories and distances and the physics of it, testing, retesting. And even I mean, I annoy a lot of people with it, but if we're hanging an actor from something and they've got a primary source and a secondary, I'll be looking for a third. Well, what if? And they say, Curtis, what's the chances of that snapping in there? And I say, well, it doesn't matter. What if? You know, so we'll put as much safety in there as possible. So I wouldn't do it if there's no backup plan B.
So is that analysis part of that kind of that visualisation process, is almost kind of running through those different scenarios and kind of satisfying yourself?
Definitely, yeah.
The little caveat to that is you don't really want to be visualising what could go wrong in the back. You know, it's all about a quick thought of, you know, because my belief is that you can bring that about. That there are people, you know, whose glass is half empty, who concentrate on the fear element, and literally bring things into their lives that cause that to go wrong. There's those people who I always have bad luck, nothing ever goes right for me. When you chat to those people for a little while, you realise the images they're planting into their subconscious are all the negative aspect. What if I go bankrupt? And there's a different phraseology that you can use, you know. What if that business doesn't make $1 million in its first year? Rather than what if we go bankrupt? It can mean the same thing. As I say, it's similar energy, but you're on the positive side. So your subconscious doesn't know the difference between can and can't. It would just see bankruptcy and make you nervous and all go wrong, you know. So that's the way we work with that one. Any more questions? Great. Well, thanks very much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I hope it's been of interest to you. Thank you very much.